Okay, this is just a quick video to do these last two pH examples. And these are different from the previous examples we did, again, because they have these numbers out front. The examples we did before were just 10 to the negative some number. They didn't have numbers out front. And because of that, we could use this equation or this equation, because it was just 10 to the negative some number. Well, these are a bit more complex, these last two examples, and since they're a bit more complex, we need to use a bit more complex equation for them. Get my screen here. Oops. There we go. These equation, or those two examples, we're going to need to use, if it's for pH, that equation, or POH, or if we're starting with OH minus, we're going to use that equation. And it just says the POH is equal to the negative log of the concentration of OH minus ions, or pH is equal to the negative log of H plus ion concentration. If we look at these examples, I'm looking for pH for both of these. So, this first example, question A here, if I'm going to write down the equation, so it was pH equals negative log of the hydrogen ion concentration. Again, log is a mathematical function. It's, for put it in simple terms, it's a button on your calculator. If you're curious as to how log works and everything like that, you can ask your math teacher. I'm probably not the best person to explain that. So if I'm looking for the pH, all I need to know is the H plus concentration. Well, I know the H plus concentration. It is 3.5 times 10 to the negative 4. So I'm going to take that number and plug it into my equation here. So every calculator is different, unfortunately. If you have a graphing calculator, you just type in negative button, then you hit the log button, and then you type in the number, 3.5 times 10 to the negative 4. If you do the times 10 and then with a little arrow up, do the negative 4, you want to put that in parentheses. Might be a good idea to put it in parentheses anyways, the 3.5 times 10 to the negative 4 part, just so it doesn't think you're wanting to do something that you don't want it to do. And my calculator, when I type that in, again, my calculator, a graphing calculator, looks like this. I use the EE button instead of the times 10 to the negative exponent button. E in calculator language means times 10 to the negative, and then the negative 4 is the exponent. So when I type that in my calculator, calculator says 3.4559. For sig figs, we're just going to go with the sig figs we started with. Starting number has 2 sig figs, so my final answer should have 2. And coincidentally enough, it just turns out to be 3.5. So the pH is 3.5. That's the answer to that example. The next example is a little bit different in the fact that I'm still looking for pH, but I'm given OH minus concentration. So since I'm starting with OH minus concentration, I'm going to use what am I doing here? I'm going to use the OH version of the equation I just used. So POH equals negative log of OH minus concentration. Well, I know the OH minus concentration. It's this. So I'm just going to take that number, plug it into that spot. So I'm going to type into my calculator negative log 2.3. I'm going to use the double E button, negative 4. If you didn't use the negative E button, it would look like this. Negative log, again, you probably want to do parentheses, 2.3 times 10, and then you lose a little up arrow thing, negative 4. I know a lot of you use exponents that way. And then you hit enter. And when I do that, negative log 2.3, double E, negative 4, I get, my calculator gives me, the answer of, with sig figs, it'd be 3.6. So I just calculated the POH is 3.6. But if I look at the question's actually asking for pH. And just like before, pH and POH equal 14. So if the POH is 3.6, all I do is do 14 minus 3.6, and that gives me 10.4. So my pH equals 10.4. Again, if you don't know how to use the log button, or if you don't have a calculator with log button, I got a couple extra calculators you could look at, and I can show you how to use those. But you only really need to use the log version of these equations if you have some number that has a concentration, I should say, that has a number out front, like 2.3, or in this case 3.5. If you just have 10 to the negative 4, you don't necessarily need a calculator. If you have any questions on this stuff, stop by, send an email, something like that. See you soon.